so it must be Friday Facebook Live with Tanya and the legal experts. And we want to welcome you all today. We're very excited to be back. I can't believe it's been a month already. And we are back to answer all of your questions. So my name is Tanya Friedman. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Kinetics USA. We're a recruitment company. We specialize in direct hire placement of nurses all over the US. And I have with me our three legal experts. Thank you so much for making time today. Chris Musello.
Hi, everybody.
Carl Schusterman.
Good morning.
And Jacob Sapachnik.
Hi, everybody.
So welcome to the team. In the past, I have always written or spoken about their bios and gone through everybody's bios. I think these days everybody knows who you are. So we're going to just get straight to the topic at hand. So the first thing to start off with, first of all, welcome to everybody. I'm just looking on the Lafora to see if you want to introduce yourselves as we're talking, and let us know where you are calling in from. We'd love to hear from you, and let us know who you are and where you're calling in from, and you can go ahead and post your questions. I have some questions that were sent through to us from the Lafora team, as well as many of you posted questions as well. So we're going to get through as many as possible. Thank you as always to the Lafora team, especially to Louise, Jean, Paul. We so appreciate this opportunity. Okay, so starting off with the retrogression and the new visa bulletin. Carl, if you maybe want to start off with that question.
Well, so we're in October, which is the beginning of the fiscal year for the federal government, and Philippines EB3, which is the category nurses that get their green cards under, is October 15th, 2017. It's not ideal by any stretch of the imagination. It's about a 2-year backlog. But when you consider back in 2015, there was a 7-year backlog, it's not too bad. And the processing times for nurses take at least a year to get a green card for a nurse. So 2 years, I mean, we're hoping that incrementally as we go to November and December, it gets a little better. But that's still not too bad, okay? The things that employers can do to speed up the process includes getting prevailing wages from the Labor Department on a regular basis. And when they file the I-140 petition that starts the process, if they file it premium processing instead of taking 6 or 7 months, if they could get it approved in a matter of a few weeks. So, you know, we'll keep up and we'll keep posting on the Lafora group about the visa bulletins. They usually come up 2 or 3 weeks before the end of the month. So sometime in the middle of this month, we'll post the November visa bulletin, and hopefully it'll keep gaining. That's the way it did for the first few months of this year. I don't remember exactly what it was in January, but by July, Philippines third was current, which meant no backlogs at all, which kind of stunned all of us, I think. So I don't know I don't know whether it'll go current again, because I know, my God, like most of the hospitals that I represent, and probably the same thing for Chris and Jacob, have been applying for tons of nurses ever since that happened. So that does create somewhat of a backlog. But I think it's generally really good news for Philippine nurses.
Okay. Chris, Jacob, anything to add about the visa bulletin?
No, I would agree with Carl. I think this is something that we kind of suspected it would be. I mean, I never thought it was going to be current again. And I think just staying proactive and making sure that when it happens again, we'll be ready.
Yeah, exactly. And from a lot of nurses that we've spoken to, people were a little bit disappointed. They were hoping that it would be a little bit earlier than what it came out as. As we all know, we don't have any control over that. But that's where I think Carl's advice is really important, and just for for people to know from our side. And I know many companies that specialize in in international nurses are getting their clients to do the prevailing wages and the posting as quickly as possible, because obviously that starts the process, but it can shave a bit of time off the processing time. So I want to say hi to Nick Min, who's calling in from the who's posting in from the Philippines, and talking about the visa bulletin. So Nick, I think we've answered your question about the Philippines. We've got Cyrus Robin from the Philippines, currently working in Australia. Lane Yu watching from Saudi. We've got Mark, who wants to say hi to everybody from San Leandro. Raquez from Jeddah. Lewis is watching. Renren Degala is watching. So welcome everybody. We're very happy to have you all on the call with us. And as I said, we're going to try and get through as many questions as possible for you. And thanks again to the Fora team for giving us the opportunity. Okay, so let's get started. So the first question is from Anna Lisa, who asked, is it possible to convert a tourist visa into a working visa? Chris.
So technically it is possible, but we almost would never recommend it under the current administration. We would, but the first thing, of course, is that you have to be current, and that would be under Table B of presumably the employment-based visa bulletin category, if that's how you're doing it. But again, we would almost never recommend it. About a year and a half ago, the Trump administration issued some guidance saying that they would look disfavorably upon that. Having said that, if you talk to your attorney, you can still do it, but it's a little precise, and we would want to make sure just how long you've been in the United States and any other representations that you may have made either when you obtained your tourist visa or when you entered the United States.
Okay, so something to ask expert advice on, Annalisa. Eon, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. David asked, the applicant is already at the NVC feeble, but due to personal reason decided not to continue with the current petitioner. What are the possible consequences if the petitioner withdraw or cancel her petition and refuse to give a release letter to the applicant? It's the applicant who paid all the immigration expenses, including NCLEX, IELTS, etc. Can the applicant apply to other facility using her priority date, recapture, even her previous petitioner withdraw or cancel the petition? There's questions in there from Ayong. Carl, if you want to take that one.
Yeah, you can keep the priority date even if your sponsor withdraws. But the other questions the person's raising have to do with the contract itself. There are a lot of contracts that provide that if the employer puts out the expenses for bringing the person over, paying the attorneys, all the rest of this, and they don't stay for a certain amount of time at the job, that they're entitled to reimbursement. So that definitely could be a problem.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone else on the panel would like to add, but I think just from our side, I would just like to say, Jiyoung, the important thing is always to act ethically and professionally. If somebody has sponsored you, that's a lot of time and effort. In this case, it doesn't seem like they're paid for it, but there's a lot of time and effort, and it's always really important to be professional and ethical. And that's why I would just suggest that for anybody who is signing up with an agency, make sure that you really think about that you take the time to ask questions, that you are comfortable about it, because it's really not a good idea to withdraw from one, to move from one agency to another where possible. Okay, so we have a lot of people joining us. We've got Joseph from Bermuda, Yvonne, who is recommending Elaine Rios to watch, Jim Cox, who's watching from Riyadh, Tristan, hi ma'am, hi Tristan. We've got Lenny from the UAE, Mary Chris from Singapore, and Margaret from the Philippines, Joanne, hi everybody, Grace May. Wow, lots of people joining us today. Brian Joseph, nice to see you guys every month offering your expertise. So Joseph Brian Joseph asked, my question is, when adding additional dependents at the NVC stage, how long usually that dependent will be added into the fee bill? Joseph, you want to take that question?
Yeah, sure. Actually, we had recently a case like this where they wanted to add another a child to the MVC. So he's asking about the timing.
Yes, correct. So obviously somebody had an additional, probably a baby.
So we have it's there shouldn't be any issues. I mean, you can just do that, and there may be a slight delay. But we just had a recent case like this where we just added the beneficiary, a child that was not supposed to come. They were going to be in boarding school. Then they decided to add the child, and we just added him, and it should be fine. There's going to be a slight delay though, but it's
Joseph. We've got Cheryl watching, Alex Muniz. Hi, Alex. I know Alex. We've got Micah Cruz, Mickey, who's asking, hi, everybody. My case is for transfer of my interview venue from the UAE to Philippines. As of now, I have been waiting for it to be transferred. My question is that can I start filling up online the DS-260 form online while waiting for my case to be transferred from the Philippines to the UAE? Chris.
Yeah, so, 2 points here. The first is we almost never recommend that you move your appointment from one embassy to the other. It's not that it's legally problematic, but procedurally we have found over the years that the State Department really struggles with this sort of thing. So not answering for the specific person who's raised the question, but for anybody else who's listening in. Yeah, I know sometimes it's inconvenient if you are in the UAE, but you're planning maybe on having your family meet you back in the Philippines. I know that can be difficult and inconvenient, but if I can caution people, it's by and large, you want to try and stay in the initial embassy or consulate that you've originally registered for, even if that means having to fly some family members or yourself halfway around the world. As inconvenient as that is, it will be much more convenient than dealing with some of the issues that the person who's asked the question is seeing here. In terms of filling up the DS-260, I mean, there's no point in actually submitting it. So, and the form can be filled out in just a day or so. So sure, you can familiarize yourself with the form, but in terms of actually completing it, I don't really see any benefit to it until such time as you get your fee bills and you just go through the regular process. Okay,
so Mickey, you got your answer from the experts there. We've got Antoinette from Saudi, Jake, who is asking Chona to watch, Mark Cervantes, who asked, how does a person solve issues about how his or her names were cut short on his or her visa, especially if long, as this affect the person's succeeding application when in the US, such as the green card? So I think it's about name change, Carl.
If I'm understanding this right, that when they issued the visa at the embassy, they cut off some letters or something.
Yeah, like it looks like that's the question.
Okay. So, as far as the green card, a lot of people think that when they're approved at the embassy that they have a green card, but that's not really true. That it's when they come into the U.S., they're going to encounter an officer at the airport, and that's called CBP, the Customs and Border Protection. So they're the ones who actually stamp the passport and admit the person into the U.S. So if there's any problem with the name, they should make sure at the airport that they correct that with the officer, and then the actual plastic green card that they'll get in the mail will show the correct name.
Okay, so that's good.
Yeah, so we had a case recently that their name was wrong on the visa, and so the green card was issued the wrong name. And so when that happens, the only solution is when they come to the US, they're gonna have to file an I-90 to fix it if they want to. But the best thing to do is to fix it at the airport if they can.
Okay, so good advice. The one thing that I'm always amazed about, I came to the US, it's almost 20 years ago now, and when I got my green card, I would always smile because I always thought it was green.
We did, Tanya. I just have to interrupt because when I don't know whether people even remember this guy anymore, but about 20-something years ago, we represented this male model named Fabio, who was coming to the U.S. I went into the green card interview with Fabio, and a lot of newspapers wrote up this, and I sort of just made this up. But he had a commercial about butter, and I can't believe it's this color and stuff. So I had him walking out just like you, and he was saying, "Carl, I can't believe it's really green."
Oh, that's funny.
Really good.
Okay, we're saying hello to Mensho. We're saying hello to Agoznog. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm sure I'm pronouncing a lot of names incorrect, so please forgive me. So watching from Manila, I am Jofel, working at MEC International Manpower. Okay, so he's an agency for Filipinos. Marion watching from London during the lunch break. Eat up, Marion. We don't want you to get indigestion. We've got Russell. We've got Sasha who's asking, hi, once I entered in the US and decided to go back to the Philippines to get married, how long would it take for me to petition my husband? Jacob.
Yeah, so I assume that she already has a green card, right? So she'll be just like a regular green card holder petitioning for the spouse, and that will depend on the visa bulletin at that time.
Okay.
So, but it's possible, but it's not going to be an immediate reunification, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah, and people should know, just as an add-on to what we said about the visa bulletin, that currently the 2A family category, which is a spouse and unmarried children of green card holders, it is actually current. It is. I never thought this was going to happen, but it has been current all summer. I thought by October it wouldn't be current anymore, but it's still current. So if somebody has a boyfriend or girlfriend in the U.S. with the green card, this would be an ideal time to get sponsored for a green card through marriage.
Okay.
Right. But if they're overseas, they're going to have to go through the regular MVC process. Obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Sasha, there you go. Lenny, good job, Kinetics team. Thank you, Lenny. Shannon from the Philippines, Menchu, Janelle Lopez currently watching. Wow, lots of people watching us today. King, Alex, Manju. Okay, there's a question here from Menchu asking, are Muslim nurses who wear the hijab welcome to work in the US? Chris.
There's no immigration rule that bars hijab or really any other attire. Having said that, a hospital or healthcare facility that you work at, they may have certain rules depending on what department that you are in. Tanya, I don't know if you can speak maybe more to that, since sometimes you work a little more directly with the facilities, since it's not. The good news is there's no immigration problem there.
No immigration problem, and we have not encountered that as an issue at all. Okay, Ode, Joy, Marlon. Oh my goodness, so many questions. Let me go to the prepared questions, because I know there are a lot of people that were wanting to ask. So we have a question from Abigail Olivier asking about cross-chargeability. So she is married to a foreigner who has a current priority date. Can she use his priority date instead of hers?
Yeah, I mean, if they're married, of course, she can use his priority date and his country of chargeability as well. Okay.
We've got a question from Andrew Simon. I have an approved I-140, but still waiting for the NVC fee bill. Will getting married delay the process? Is it necessary to submit a PSA authenticated marriage certificate, or will any marriage contract suffice? Jacob.
I mean, I don't think it's going to delay it necessarily, but he definitely should, update this information as soon as possible. And then you were asking about the certified marriage certificate. I think most consulates would want to see it certified, so it definitely should be certified.
Okay. Trixia Dias asked, if you're single and want to bring your parents to the States, what kind of petition would be best, and how long would the processing take? Chris.
Yeah, so unfortunately, parents are not allowed to come with you as an immigrant, so they are ineligible to get a green card. Having said that, there's at least two other considerations. One is your parents are allowed to visit if they can obtain a tourist visa. Once you're in the United States, they can come and ordinarily stay between 90 and 180 days. Although the more often they come, the more difficulty they may encounter at the port of entry, because the officers are going to make sure that they're coming to visit you, not to live with you. So that's one piece there. And then a second piece is, eventually, if you are a U.S. green card holder for 5 years and you meet a few other requirements, including having physically been in the U.S. for 2.5 of those 5 years, you can eventually become a U.S. citizen. And then once you're a U.S. citizen, you are eligible to sponsor your parents for a green card. So those are the two. The 3 points then in summary are: one, your parents cannot come with you. Only spouses and under 21-year-old children can come with you. But number two, your parents have the opportunity to obtain U.S. tourist visas. And then three, in 5 years, you can become a U.S. citizen. And then once you're a U.S. citizen, you can immediately sponsor your parents.
Okay, so there you go, Trixia. We have a question from, and I'm watching the time, and we've got so many questions. I'm trying to get through as many as possible. So Ladima, pretty name, Ladima asked, I have an approved priority date. The application is currently at the NVC stage. The visa fee invoice was received, but the agency has not paid it yet. I'd like to get a job from direct hire. I would appreciate any guidance and want to know the consequences. They paid for the priority date filing, the NCLEX visa screen, and IELTS on my own expense. Wow.
Well, that sounds like that previous question. That she's talking about changing employers. That's yeah. I mean, our recommendation, or my recommendation, is please dance with the one who brought you, to the party. Because if you change in the middle of the process, take a look at your contract. You may be out tons of money having to repay the agency that went through all of this for you. You have to be very precise at the beginning and say, like, I like this agency, or I like this job. Because if you switch in the middle, you're only going to cause yourself a lot of problems.
Yeah. So, Ladima, as I said from our side, it's really important to do your research in the beginning. Make sure that it's a reputable company. Make sure that you ask all your questions. Make sure that you research what you are signing before you sign something. Don't just go ahead and sign something, because when you commit to something, I would encourage everybody who is listening on this call or share this with your friends and colleagues. It's a commitment. It's a commitment from the agency side. It's a commitment from your side, from the client side. And it's really
Oh, I feel like we may have lost Tanya there.
Oh.
Let's see if she pops back on.
Oh.
Are you back, Tanya?
Oh, there she is.
Here, Tanya.
Tanya, we lost you for a second.
Oh. I was telling everybody to be ethical and professional.
Yeah.
Somebody didn't like that advice, right?
Important.
They removed you.
Okay. Okay, we have a question from Sarsi, who asked, I am in Saudi waiting for my interview date. My dependents are in the Philippines. We emailed the NVC. Unfortunately, they said we cannot send one petition to 2 separate locations. Please advise me to send the email to Riyadh U.S. Embassy once interview date is set. Otherwise, just to let my dependents fly here in Riyadh for the interview. Is it possible? So there's another question about the interview location.
So
is it possible to transfer the interview location?
So just like Chris said before, I think it's not a good idea to start moving consulates. And I think they should make an effort to fly to the main consulate and do everything in the same location.
Yeah,
exactly. Because it's going to be a mess.
Yeah, so same question on that one. Okay, I'm looking at soy sauce. Hi, he's saying hi to Chris. He's here in the US already.
Hi there.
We also know soy sauce. And then Benzo asked, hi, can you state the implications on the October visa bulletin and predictions? So Benzo, if you missed the first part of the call today, the lawyers did go through the visa bulletin and the implications thereof, so you might want to look at that. Then we've got, okay, let me take one more of the prepared questions. Oh, goodness. Okay, let me see. Okay, so Benzo asked, oh no, Benzo, sorry, we covered Benzo. So Manuel asked, hi guys, just wanted to ask if any updates to the S386 or the HR 1044 that is in More Power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so S386 and HR 1044, for those of you who don't know, it's called the Fairness for Skilled Immigrants Act, and it's right now working its way through Congress. A lot of us have been very in tune on this. I've been to Washington, D.C. on a number of occasions this summer. What we are negotiating is for a carve out for nurses, so that nurses and nurse immigration in the United States will be preserved. We are optimistic that if the bill were to go forward, that we would be able to get this carve out to protect nurse immigration. It is, however, a very fluid, very tenuous situation. And so, we can't, of course, guarantee anything, but I would, at this point, not be too concerned about that bill. I do not think it is likely to move anytime soon. But again, having said that, things can change quite quickly in Washington. But for now, I wouldn't be too concerned about it.
Okay. All right. So looking at the time, last question is from Mark Jacob. Once a previous priority date was successfully recaptured and given that it's current in the visa bulletin table, how long does it take to reach the embassy interview? Carl. Carl?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say, and please, if we find that it doesn't take too long to get to the embassy. I can't tell you, it's this many weeks or anything like that. But it has, since these priority dates change on a monthly basis, it is important that it gets to the embassy while the priority date is current, because these priority dates can sometimes move backwards, so it can retrogress. So, hopefully most of the cases will move to the embassy during that same month. But I don't know if Jacob or Chris has seen ones that take over that time. Please chime in on this.
I mean, it shouldn't be too long, like you said, but we had a few cases that took a little bit longer, but I think it was just unusual circumstances. It was not the norm.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Sometimes at this time of the year it takes longer than usual because it's the end of the U.S. fiscal year. So I think I would agree with Carl and Jacob's sentiment, which is it doesn't take too long, but to say it takes exactly 6 weeks or exactly 4 weeks or exactly 8 weeks just is that there's no experience there. There's quite a bit of a variance, unfortunately, within a several week period of time. But the important thing is you're very close, so you can be very optimistic, and I would expect to get your green card shortly.
Exactly. So we got to. The cup is half. What do you say? The glass is half full, rather.
Maybe 3/4 full.
You're almost there. So hang in there, Mark. I think one thing just to mention before we finish up, but for many nurses, as everybody knows, it's not essential to have the IELTS exam before you when you file the case. But with the volatility of the visa bulletin, the one thing that's coming up more and more that we're seeing with many nurses is that we don't want to get to a situation where you do get to that embassy interview and you have not passed the IELTS and you have not you don't have a visa screen and the whole thing, everybody's running around crazy and stressed out. And, so that's really important, is to make sure that you've got everything ready for the time that you get to the consulate. And passing the IELTS obviously is one big part of that. So the last question I'm going to actually go ahead and ask, because this is something that we actually, interesting enough, got from a few nurses. Joanne asked, what's the chance to get denied at the port of entry for someone who's coming for a vacation if one has a pending immigrant application?
Oh, big time, big time, because when you're coming in as a tourist, you're supposed to have no intent to remain in the U.S. permanently. So if the CBP officer at the airport sees that you have a pending petition or an approved petition, which they will, it'll be in that computer, chances are they can really turn you around. Now, but I'll give you one exception, try to end this on a positive note. My wife in the 1970s became a citizen and applied for her brothers and sisters. But you may want to know that the waiting time is over 20 years for a brother or sister of a U.S. citizen from the Philippines. So her sister, who is closest in age to her, would come out and visit us. And I was working for immigration at that time. I was always so nervous that they wouldn't let her in. But because her priority date was 10 or 20 years away, they had no problem at all. And she had a job. It's always good to show, I'm on a 2-week vacation. I have a round trip, non-refundable ticket, and I'm going back to my family and job. And she never had a single problem at the airport. But if your priority date is really close, don't even think about coming as a tourist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're very strict right now anyway.
Yeah, stricter and stricter, that's for sure. Okay, we are out of time. I was just looking at the list of questions. I don't even know how many questions I haven't asked yet, and there are a lot of questions posted in the chat box. So thank you everybody for posting your questions. We will try our best to get through as many as possible. I know that the lawyers have so kindly given up their time this morning and have also said that they will go into the chat box and answer as many questions for you as possible so that you can get the answers that you so deserve. So thank you everybody for your time. We wish everybody a great weekend and we look forward to speaking to you again in a month's time. Keep the questions coming.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a beautiful weekend.
Have a nice weekend, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.